Let's face it, financial planning can be boring and stressful. Thankfully, Financial Advisor On Call has changed all that. We created a platform where you can get convenient access to a whole team of financial professionals without paying expensive commissions or asset fees. Think of telemedicine applied to financial services. Let us help make your life easier today. Don't delay, your future awaits.
Welcome to Covering Your Six, where we explore how to pursue a better and more meaningful life by focusing on the 6 F's of faith, family, friends, fitness, finance, and fun. Today is an awesome day to get better and to try something new. So let's get it on. Louis, what is up, brother?
Hey, Jim. How are you?
It's good to see you here.
Good to be here.
We had a little pre-game microphone thing we had to deal with. So
it's to be expected.
We're already on hour 3 of the podcast so far. Hey, Lou, I've been wanting to have you on here for a long time, so I appreciate you being here, bud.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
You are a super cool dude. I mean, you're good. We've become pretty good friends.
Yeah.
We started working together, but I just love your background. And so anyone that's listening to Lou or watching, you're probably picking up your phone to call the Home Shopping Network and buy something, because Lou was on the Home Shopping Network for a long time. How long have you been on there?
37 years on and off.
Holy mackerel.
I know, it's longer than you thought, probably. Yeah.
Is that like when they started or what?
Yeah, close to it. I started there in 1988.
1988.
I was 24 years old, so do the math, you'll figure out how old I am now.
Yeah.
I was a host when I originally got hired, and then I stayed there for 10 years as an employee. And during that time, I moved around through production in different departments there. And at one point, I was actually vice president of broadcasting.
Really?
For the entire network. Yeah.
See, I'm learning something new.
Yeah. And then at a certain point, I decided I didn't like that anymore. And it had to do with management. You know, it's one of those things where you don't want to work for somebody.
Hold on a second. You mean a big company had management? You didn't like bad management?
Yeah, imagine that. No, but I mean like really bad.
Yeah.
So
of course they don't listen to the podcast.
No, they won't. But so at that point I decided I wanted to go back on the air. So I went back on the air for a couple of years, and then I left and kind of did my own thing and started my business. And at that point, I went back on HSN as a guest expert, which is what I still do. And I've been doing that for over 20 years now.
Okay. So you were originally a host, you left, you started your own business. We're going to talk about that because you've done a couple cool things.
Yep.
But you sell all kinds of things.
I do.
On there, right?
I do.
Yeah. You're really good at it. It's cool to see.
Thank you.
How often are you on now?
Not as often as I was, but I am on, like, for instance, tomorrow I've got 3 shows. Tomorrow being Friday, then I'm working Saturday, I'm working Sunday, I'm working Monday. So, I mean, it just depends week to week. Sometimes a lot, sometimes not as much, but still doing it.
And they just call you like right away, right?
Yeah, I get an itinerary that shows me when my shows are scheduled and what I'm going to sell, and I get those. It's supposed to be a couple weeks out. It's usually just like 3 days.
Okay.
So you don't get a ton of notice.
Yeah.
You
So now what's really cool about, just so everybody knows, is you've agreed to disclose everything. From behind the scenes. You're going to tell us who all the jerks are, the celebrities that come in.
There's
and
dirt. There's so much dirt.
we got to write a book on this one, but
I am going to.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm right there with you, man. So let's talk. I want to talk about some of the products that you sell, but let's talk about. You've had a lot of celebrities go there, right? I don't think people know this. Right here in St. Petersburg, Florida, where we do this, is where the Home Shopping Network's at.
Yeah,
that's always a big surprise, even for people who live here. They got no clue.
No, they don't. And it's funny because people they assume that QVC, who now is like a sister network to HSN, but they used to be our competitors, and they think that they started it, but they didn't. We started it. It actually started right here in Clearwater.
That's right.
With Roy Spear and Bud Paxson.
Okay.
And and they basically invented the entire business.
Invented the business. Yeah. That's right. So is it now where they started? Is it the same building that they're at now?
No.
Okay.
They started at a radio station because it originally was a radio show.
Okay.
Do you know that whole story?
No.
Okay, it's a great story.
That's why we're doing the podcast.
There's some debate whether it was a toaster or a hammer or what it was, but so they owned a radio station.
Okay.
Bud did, and he had somebody that had bought advertising from him, and they couldn't afford to pay for the advertising. So what they said was, we can barter with you and give you 1,000 toasters or 500, whatever it was. Could have been hammer, but they gave him. Let's go with toasters. So they gave him these toasters,
I love this,
and they just tried to think about, well, how can we? What are we going to do with these? So they started selling them on the radio, sight unseen, on the air. Think about that for a second, and they blew through everything. So then they were like, well, let's just keep selling stuff. So they kept getting things. And once it worked on radio, they're like, you know what? This might do better with pictures.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow.
So they went on and they started on local cable here in Pinellas County in Florida, right?
Yeah.
And then very soon after that, they went regional and then they went national. And this is probably their third location where they're located now, because you know where Hercules is in Clearwater?
Yeah.
That's where, by the airport.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where they had a studio for many, many years. That was the original one.
Okay.
And then they moved to Levitt's Shopping Center right on US 19, and also in Clearwater. And now they're in St. Pete at
it's a huge building,
massive campus. Well, it's a campus. I mean, there's like a 5-story tower. There's the studios, and there's a ton of stuff there.
Yeah, and for people who aren't familiar with the area, it's the same place that like Raymond James is at, and Franklin Templeton, and all those other big buildings out in that Carolina.
They're newbies out there. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
When I first started HSN, man, it was cow pastures.
I remember. It was like alligators, mosquitoes, rattlesnakes.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. It's amazing how that place has taken off.
Yeah.
No, so you've been on there since almost the beginning. And so let's get in, because here's what everybody wants to know. They want the dirt.
They want the dirt.
I know you've worked with all these people. Now I won't. Well, I am going to pretend the spot just to make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe tell us some good stories of like some stars that have come in that were like super cool.
Ooh. Actually, so one cool thing was Vanna White. And this was easily 20 something years ago.
Love Vanna White.
Vanna White.
My wife's lookalike. Vanna White.
Oh yeah. But she came in to do a series of things there. And I actually shot, so that time I was a commercial producer for them, and I was shooting some spots with her. And one day I had lunch with her in the cafeteria at HSN. And I'm sitting there, and she's sitting right across the table from me. We're eating hamburgers, and I'm sitting there, and I look up at her, and all of a sudden it occurs to me that I am sitting across from Vanna White.
Now, this is before marriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she was single. She was single. I don't think
about you.
Oh, mine.
Make sure.
Yeah.
No. You better tell Kelly not to listen to the podcast here.
I didn't know what you were talking about. Well, but you got to remember something. I met my wife at HSN.
Yeah.
But I didn't meet her until 95.
Which I love Kelly. And Kelly's much prettier than Vanna anyways.
Yes,
just in case she's listening. But I do mean that. But but this is before. Okay. So you're looking up at Vanna White.
Yeah.
And you had this gaze in her eyes.
You guys had this
surreal moment. Locked on moment.
Yeah. And I was like going, where did, I was selling clothes at Banana Republic like 5 years before this, and now I'm sitting here, looking at Vanna White across the table. And I'm like, going, man, what life just weird things happen.
Yeah.
You got to go with it though.
So what happened there? Did you take your shot?
No, nothing happened. No, it was just like this surreal.
You had your one shot.
Yeah.
You were holding off for Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. I knew she was out there someplace.
You probably broke her heart.
I mean, there was her. There was Jack LaLanne. I worked with Jack LaLanne. He was a really nice guy.
Dude, I've got a Jack LaLanne story.
Do you really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He was a really super nice man, but he couldn't stop exercising. So like I'd be standing in a hallway talking to him, and he was literally leaning up against the wall doing isometric exercises. I mean, this guy was a rock. He really was. For
our younger people, younger, it's probably
don't know
40 or under. I mean, I don't think he was the guy that invented exercise on TV. And this dude was a stud.
He was.
I mean, the stuff that he would do, like he'd put a rope in his mouth and like
for his birthday every year.
Yeah, he put a rope in his mouth with like 20 boats behind him, and he would like swim the New York, channel or whatever. And I mean,
he was a beast.
So my story with him, I was at some convention somewhere, and he was the speaker. And by this time, he was up there. I mean, I don't know, 80s, 90s or something. And his wife would come up there and give the presentation. This guy, at this point, he had no filter. I mean, he was old school guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he had no filter. And one thing I always tell people is, he said, dieting. Everybody thinks dieting, it's hard. And he's like, they're counting calories.
Right.
He's like, it's easy. He's like, you put food in your mouth. If it tastes good, you spit it out. And so he did that. But then he went on. I mean, it was cringeworthy, right? So then he goes, ma'am, are you happy with your size? He's like, that lady,
looking right at her.
And she's looking right at her.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you do something about that? And you could tell his wife was like, so anyways, here's the thing. She's like trying to shut him up and stuff. But oh my gosh, man, his
wife was Elaine LaLanne. That's her name.
Elaine
Elaine Lillane.
Yeah.
And she was his handler. Like,
yeah.
you know,
mean, she was cool.
Yeah, no, she was very cool. But there were so many people that came through that place, so many celebrities. I have a really great Phyllis Diller story, but I can't tell it on a family program because she.
Well, fortunately, this isn't a family program.
Okay, so
it is. It is somewhat.
She could tell dirty jokes. Like,
really?
Oh my goodness!
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's great.
And she told a joke to me and like a whole bunch of people that just totally caught us off guard, where we just at first didn't know what to do. And she did her patented laugh that she does, you know, that, And as soon as she did that, we all knew that, oh, it's a joke. Okay. So we all, because it was like,
it was one of those things.
She was working blue, as they say in the business. It was something.
Didn't you have like a Mickey Mantle story or something like that?
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't Mickey Mantle. It was the Yankees manager, Billy Martin.
Billy
God. Martin.
People don't know Billy Martin. I mean, this dude's like, he's known for like crazy stuff.
Rugged individual.
Yeah.
And so he came in to do a show. And at the time we were doing these shows where we would sell like baseball memorabilia, right? And I was working as a producer and I had to go around the country and shoot commercials, basically with all these like Hank Aaron and Bob Lemon and just these really Harmon Killebrew, all these really big names from the past. And Billy Martin was one of them. And he came in to do his shows. And I'll never forget this. The shows during the daytime in the morning were great. Like he was he was focused, he was on. And then we had a break between shows, couple of hours, and he went to dinner. And apparently he went to a steakhouse that's not too far from HSN, and everybody recognized him because, you know, down here in Florida, there's a lot of New Yorkers, and they all recognized him and bought him drinks. And so Billy Martin comes to the show, and he's out there, and he's fine at the first part, but then as the show is going on, he's starting to slouch like this in his chair, and very slowly he's sliding out of the chair to the point where he falls on the floor, like just under the. At that time, we used desks.
Just like live TV.
Yes, he slid. They were on a 2-shot of him and the host.
Yeah, and
he slid under the table and disappeared. And the director wasn't like looking at that. He was looking at something else. And he looks up. He goes, "Where's Billy? Where'd Billy go?" And the host is out there like.
So did he pass out?
He passed out.
Oh my gosh.
He passed out. He fell under the table. And then they like rushed him out of there. And then the host got back on. He's like, folks, I'm really sorry, but Billy's a little under the weather. So we're just going to continue.
So people should look this up. I mean, whether they're baseball fans or not, but you talk about in the day, I mean, the party gods. I mean, it was Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle. And I think Whitey Ford was part of that too. The old Yankees back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember listening to a Mickey Mantle story. It was great. And these guys used to always play jokes on each other, right?
Yeah.
And so Mickey and Billy were these great friends. And the way that Mickey tells the story is he was setting Billy up. They were going hunting to a place upstate New York.
Yeah.
Have I told you this story?
No, but I like where this is going.
So they're going hunting.
Right.
And Mickey, they drive up there. It's like 2.5 hours to this guy's house. He's like, I know a guy.
Right.
And he goes, hey, Billy. He goes, you wait in the car. He goes, I'm going to go talk to the guy and just let him know we're here and we're ready to go hunt, you know?
Yeah.
And so Mickey decides he's going to play this joke, and he's got his guy, his friend in on it. So he starts throwing his hands up in the air and screaming at him and stuff and yelling.
Right.
And he comes running back to the car. And Billy's like, what's going on? He goes, that son of a bee. He goes, we drove all the way up here and he's saying we can't hunt now. And he grabs his shotgun and Billy's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to go take out one of his cows. I'm going to go run around the back. Right. And so Mickey Mantle goes behind the ranch.
Right.
And he takes his shotgun and he shoots it up in the air.
Right.
Right. And right when he shoots it, he hears bam, bam. He hears there's 2 other shotgun shots on the other side of the ranch.
Oh, no.
And he goes running back to the car to see what's going on. And Billy's running. He's like, come on, I got 2 of them. He shot 2 of his cows.
Yeah. That's why we don't do practical jokes.
That's pretty extreme. They also had one. No, we're getting off a tangent here, but they had one where they were out partying like that in St. Louis.
Right.
And they had to get back to the game. They missed the train back then. And they had to get back to New York, and they rented a cab
all the way from St. Louis
to New York to go back.
I can't even imagine what that cost. They probably didn't care.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and the money they were making back then. I mean, for the time.
Yeah. Yeah, they were probably sauced quite a bit. I mean, those guys probably played half the games they were sauced up.
Yeah, Babe Ruth too.
right? Oh yeah, that's even another story. So
Yeah.
All right. So Billy, so that's a pretty good one. Any other quick ones?
Not with the baseball guys. No.
No,
I mean,
just anybody in general.
you just never know there.
Yeah.
You know,
so who is the real, and you can just use initials, but who is the real king jerk or queen jerk? All this stuff.
For the celebrities, there's one that's on the air right now that I would definitely put up in that category. And I'm absolutely not going to give you any initials, but
you can tease, right?
She was married to a famous rock star. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, you know, it's funny because as a kid, I'd grow up my dad lived in Hollywood. I'd go up on some movie sets.
Yeah.
And you see these people and you just think they're great.
Oh, yeah.
And then you find out, you meet them behind the scenes and it's like they're not great.
Not great.
Bob Barker, by the way, was one of those dudes.
Nice or bad?
Oh, he's horrific.
Really? Off the air?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
he was.
I never knew that.
No, he ended up getting all those lawsuits from all those models and stuff, if you remember afterwards. So, yeah. It's funny the way people are. So let's talk about products then. You've had all kinds of products that have been on there. So
many.
What are some memorable products that
I think some of the biggest ones I've had are the ones I never thought would do well, which is the strangest thing, because you'd think after a while doing it, you're like, oh, I can tell you what product's going to sell. And up to a point, you can find a good product, but the great ones sometimes surprise you. So for instance, the very first one I ever had that was a huge hit was this ladder. And it was called the Ultimate Ladder. And basically it was a ladder that you configure into different shapes.
Yeah.
So it could be like a straight 18-foot ladder. It could be an A-frame. It could be like a stair climbing ladder where you could put it on steps, or, you know, you can make it into scaffolding. It had all these features. And I went on for the very first time with that. And when I came off the air, we did it as what they call today's special at HSN, which means like you've got like a special deal for like 8 or 10 shows throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so I went on the air with them. And they screamed. I'm talking about like in the first hour that I went on, we sold like, you know, $200,000
Oh my
worth.
gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which back then wasn't as much as it is today. It might have been more than that even, but it was so much that it was so like far exceeded what they thought.
Ship those is a big thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But so we did that, and it wound up being like a product that I sold for like 4 or 5 years, where it was just huge, you know. Then after that, I got had the great luck of selling the Heat Surge Amish fireplaces.
Oh, okay.
Handmade, the framing handmade by the Amish. True story. They really were.
There were these really Amish guys that were making them with all that volume that you sold.
Yep. So I actually would go up there because I also own a video production company. And so I went up there.
Where's up there? You mean where the Amish are at?
Where the Amish were. They were being made in Canton, Ohio. There's a huge Amish community up there. So they flew us up there. And we shot video that we used for HSN, right? That we were using when I was selling stuff on the air. And we went around with these Amish guys that owned one of the plants where they made them. When I say plant, it's like a huge barn. And they were using hand tools. But the funny thing about the Amish is that depending on what sect they are, they have certain things they can do. Like I saw a computer in an office, and but it's weird because like they can only do it at work, right? They can only use it. So they use tools, but they would use pneumatic tools. They wouldn't use anything that would be plugged in. Of course, the compressor is getting power from somewhere, but you know, we look around that. But they were legit Amish guys, like for real Amish. And I spent 2 or 3 trips. I went up there and I spent days with them and learned a ton about them. They're super nice people.
Yeah.
And they treated us really well. They don't drink, of course, right? So we went out to lunch with them one day, and they were like, "Oh, we want to take you to one of our favorite restaurants." We're like, "Okay, cool. Let's." You know, I'm like, "What in the world is this going to be like?"
So
right?
Billy Martin would have liked it.
No, he would not have liked it.
All right, so you go to the restaurant.
We go to this restaurant, and there's a huge line going out the door. I mean, just around the block to get into this place. And we walk up, we're like, "Oh boy, we don't have time to wait for this. We got to get back." And you know, and they're like, "No. We got this." And they just walked past everybody, walked inside. And what I realized was all these other people were not Amish. They were just like you and me. They're just, you know, what they call them, Englishers, right? So they weren't Amish. And the people that actually own the restaurant are Amish. And the girls who work at the desk were Amish. These 2 guys walked in with the beards and the hats and the whole deal. And it was like they were rock stars walking into Studio 54. They parted the gates. Yeah. They're telling people to get out of the way, you know. They're trying to stop me. And they're like, no. Right? Yeah, they're like, no, he's okay. He's with us. You know what I mean? I'm like, what is
Amish
this?
mafioso.
Yeah, I thought it was in Little Italy. I'm like, I'm with you. What's going on here? So we walk in and we sit down, and they are all over us, like 5-star, you know, Michelin 5-star service. They are fawning all over us. The Amish don't drink alcohol, but they do drink caffeine. And so their drug of choice is coffee. Yeah. And when I tell you they like it strong and they like it black, and these guys were going through pots of coffee while we had lunch with them.
I have no idea.
Dude,
no clue.
They were drinking
Really?
so much coffee. And I'm just looking. Lee was with me.
That's why they were making so many. They're up all night. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They never went to sleep. But so that was the amazing part of it, was that they're just sitting there watching this all transpire. And I'm like going, I had no idea that this is what happened up here.
Little known fact, Aunt Annie's pretzels.
Yes. Amish?
She was Amish.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
She started making the pretzels on the side. She had to get some money. I think something happened to her husband or whatever, and it became a big business.
See, I wonder if when she made her money, if she became a Mennonite, because a lot of Amish do that.
I don't know the difference. What's the difference?
The Mennonite can drive. They can use electricity. There's a lot of things that they look a lot like the Amish in the way they dress, but they're not. And that's if you're flying on a plane and you see somebody that looks like Amish, they're not. They're Mennonites.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's like Baptist progressing to Methodist.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
that's a very good analogy.
That's a good. Okay, so we had some cool products, but you do some other cool things, Lou. So you got your own. Well, in addition to Home Shopping Network, you did some broadcasting for some of the sports teams here.
Oh, too, right? Yeah. What's funny though, I
forgotten about that.
I did forget about that.
Okay.
I worked for Fox Sports Florida. Okay. And it was funny because like they had me, technically I was on the roster as a host. Yeah. But really what I did was I sold tickets, because they took my my home shopping skills and put them to work for the teams.
Gotcha.
So like I would go down to a Miami Heat game, for instance, and either from courtside or from the announcer's table during halftime, they would have me sitting there, or between the periods, they would have me sitting there talking about a special ticket deal they had going on. So I would be selling tickets to the audience, and I did it for all the teams. Like they would fly me all over the place, or I would drive, but they would put me up in a hotel. It was really good. They paid extremely well. And I did the Lightning. I got to go to a lot of Lightning games. I did the Rays. The Rays were probably my favorite to go there, because they were super cool to work with. Yeah, cool. Yeah. They were great. Who else?
The Lightning had to have been great, though. By the way, I can't let that go by. I mean, they're like the number one.
I'm not saying they weren't great. I'm not saying, but it's funny when you're working in a baseball stadium, which is massive compared to an arena.
It's a different feel.
So for me walking around and trying to do stuff, it was harder.
Sure.
When I was working for them for the Lightning than when you're doing a baseball team. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because
sure.
It's just, I did the Marlins too, and their state. Which it was the weird thing was I get there and they're like going, "Oh, the team's not doing well." No, there's nobody here, and I walk in and I'm like, it's to me,
it's Miami. Nobody.
Well, and it was
just for people who don't know, we real Floridians don't consider Miami part of the state.
No.
Okay, anyway,
but their stadium at the time was brand new.
Yeah,
it was the nicest one I'd been in, and I was like,
wow,
this place is amazing.
Yeah,
it's a nice stadium. But it was weird because they really didn't have.
But you're still in Miami.
Yeah, you're still in Miami. Yeah. It was one of my least. I never liked going down there.
Yeah,
I never enjoyed that. And it's funny because there's such a big difference between them and what's that hockey team that's down there?
The Florida Panthers.
The Panthers.
Yeah. So we're playing right now as we broadcast this. There's a playoff game between the two of them today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but
we won all the titles they have.
Yeah. But the funny part was the Panthers, also not doing well at the time, had a beautiful brand new stadium as well, arena. Yeah. And it was the cultural difference as a Floridian from doing it there versus Miami was like, I felt like I was at Disney World.
People have no clue.
No, they don't.
They're not around Florida. How diverse Florida is.
Crazy.
It's really like 3 different states. I always tell people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go, the difference between Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And that area versus like Miami.
Oh my God.
Versus, I mean, it's like 2 different worlds.
It is 2 different
versus
worlds.
Central Florida versus the Keys. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. It's what makes us really cool. I mean, it's a cool state to be in.
I mean, you could drive down to the Keys and have feel like you're in the islands somewhere, you know what I mean? And then head up to Miami, and now it's like incredibly urban and cultural, and then head across the state and go to Naples, and it's all rich people. And then,
don't forget the Everglades. The Everglades. In the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then, Orlando's got its own vibe, like Ocala. I love Ocala. Ocala's beautiful. Yeah. Gainesville. I mean, you got all that stuff there.
And by the way, I don't think people realize how much farm country and
oh my God.
It was surprising to me for cattle.
Yeah.
Florida's the number 3 state in the country.
Isn't that crazy?
That is amazing.
But I'll tell you what, you drive around in Ocala, you totally believe it, because you'll come across horse ranches where they like breed the thoroughbreds.
There's some money there, bro.
A lot of money up in Ocala. A lot of money in Ocala. And then horse
You're out in the middle of nowhere
farms.
and you're thinking, oh man, you're out in the country and there are horse farms and there's...
I'll tell you a story. Kelly and I, we have a house up in Ocala. Yeah. And so we went to dinner at a steakhouse in downtown, right? The downtown in Ocala is gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful.
I like it down there.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Don't tell people.
No, we don't go there.
All right.
But there is a really great steakhouse, Mark's Prime Steakhouse. They also have one in Gainesville. And we had dinner there one night, and these cowboys come. And when I say cowboys, I mean these guys were legit like Yellowstone walking in there. The hats, the vests, they had the boots on. Could have heard, I swear I heard some jangling as they were walking in, you know what I mean? And they sat down at the table and they started ordering like $500 bottles of wine and like the most expensive app. They had this massive meal. And they just happened to leave about the same time Kelly and I did, right? And so we had valeted our car, and so did they, or my truck, you know, and they had their truck. And this truck pulls up, and it's like the most expensive Ford dually, you know, like $350, $450, whatever it was, massive, the most expensive package. At the time, I guarantee that truck was close to $150,000.
Oh my gosh.
Easily, right? Yeah. And then my little Ram pickup comes pulling up, and I'm like,
hey guys, it's time for a potty break. Well, actually, you might want to hold it because you're not going to want to miss what's coming up.
If you're going to win in life, you must have a plan. Benjamin Franklin said people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. At Financial Advisor On Call, we create winning plans so people can plan to win. Get started today and have a whole team of financial professionals help you with your personalized financial plan. Don't delay, your future awaits.
And now, the Grumpy Old Man's Guide to Etiquette.
All right, guys, this is Jim, and here's today's etiquette lesson. Now, it's not a place we want to go to, but it's the public restrooms. Now, of course, I just have a perspective from a man, but there's a couple things when you go into the men's room, guys, that you got to be aware of. All right. Of course, we know we all need to wash our hands. I can't even tell you how bad that is. I mean, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe 30% and guys wash their hands. Not a good thing, guys. But here's the deal. You never talk to someone in the stall next to you or in the urinal next to you. You hush up, right? There's no eye contact. There's nothing. You just go straight in. You take care of business, wash your hands, and get out. So, ladies, you may have some of your own. I don't even want to go there. Hate to even have etiquette on this. But, man, come on. Let's get it together, guys. Hey, this is Jim. I want to thank you for listening. And if you liked the show, which we know you did, or you wouldn't have made it this far, please subscribe. Give us an awesome rating and invite a friend. And if you have any wisdom to share, would like to be on the show, or simply advertise, please visit our website and contact us as soon as possible so that you can contribute to the CY6 community as well. That's funny. You never know. And that's,
you never know. That's why you got to treat everybody well.
Being a financial planner, I can tell you, the people who you don't think have money are the ones that have them.
So let me ask you a question. Because years ago, I lived next door to a guy. When I rented a house on the beach, my neighbor sold Kirby vacuums. Okay. My neighbor, Mike. And Mike told me, I said, where do you sell them? He goes, you'd be surprised. He goes, I sell most of my vacuums in trailer parks. And I was like, what? How is that possible? And he told me that statistically, there are more millionaires in trailer parks than there are anywhere else.
So listen, there's a really good book, and it's old now, but I mean, the same thing holds true. It's called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that these PhDs and, actually did a study on millionaires.
Right.
And they broke every myth that's out there. They're not on the golf course and the yachts and everything. The Millionaire Next Door, the meaning is that the people who were living there at the time of the study, living in places, were in small places. They were small business owners, and they had 2.5 times the income as their neighbor.
Wow.
So they had small houses.
Right.
They never bought new cars.
They
never spent more than $60 on shoes.
Right.
And so, that's 100%. And we've talked about it on this podcast a lot. I mean, I've been around a lot of people in these big, beautiful homes on the golf course.
Yeah.
And it's paycheck to paycheck, man.
That's scary.
They're literally, their refrigerators are empty.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it would, it would amaze you.
Oh, I'm doing pretty well then.
It would, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
where were we at there? We
We
both got brain fog.
Yeah, we
getting
did.
old.
I don't know what we were
So,
talking about.
All right. So you had that. But
We talked about the products, and then we talked about.
All right. That's all right. So
Yeah.
we're going to move on to the.
Yeah.
You got your own production company.
I do have a production company. I've had it for 21 years now.
Okay.
And it's just because my background has been in television, or radio, for my entire life. So, it just for me was like a natural extension.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is that like the name of the company is Caputo Creative. And a lot of people go like, well, that's not very creative. You know what I mean? Because I named it after myself.
Sounds good though.
But here's why. Yes. See, I'm a big fan of alliteration, but the reason that I chose that was because at the time when I was at HSN, and we still get work from a lot of vendors that come to HSN, but the because I'm on the air, the people know me.
Yeah.
So like it was very easy for them to remember the name of the company.
Sure.
Because it's me.
I like that.
Or they come up to me, and that's how I would get work is I bump into people a lot.
You got a good Italian name.
Good Italian name.
Caputo.
What can I tell you?
That's right.
My mother was born in Italy.
I wouldn't doubt it for
Born
a second.
and raised
The name
until she was
like Caputo.
21. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell people, by the way, since you're on here, I mean, your production company, it's Caputo.
Yes, it's
they can
Caputo
look you up.
Creative.
What's your website?
CaputoCreative.com.
Okay, so what kinds of stuff do people do there?
We do a lot of product videos. We do Amazon videos. We do corporate videos, meaning like training videos, HR videos. Anything in that realm. We do commercials, marketing videos. We pretty much run a gambit of that stuff. We don't do weddings.
Yeah. You've got a good team. So you've done stuff for me before in the past. So
yep.
So if someone's out there and they need that help, then they need to get a hold of you. But just make sure you don't push me to the back of the line.
No.
All right.
No. Well, one of the things that we're doing, and this sort of happened during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of forced our hand to do a lot of live broadcasting from our studio.
Yeah, that's right.
And so what I did was I invested in robotic cameras. So I've got 4 robotic cameras in my studio. We have a beautiful set. And it's great for me now because I do some selling stuff outside of HSN. So I use that as my home base to do it from. But for companies that are doing like the days of the big corporate sales meetings, I think are pretty much gone where they're flying people into like a resort or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're doing a lot of it by Zoom or they're doing, just different, platforms that they use. And because of the way we're set up, we can actually not only feed from our location to whoever it is that they want to do it with, who they want to attend. But we have a way that we can take video from other people live and make it look like, just like what HSN does when everybody was working from different locations, and make it look like they're there with you. Like
they're all in the studio.
Literally. Well, they're in a box shot. So it's two different shots, but everybody can hear everybody. Everybody's talking to everybody. The director on our end can put in graphics. They do everything. So to me, that's like the most exciting thing right now. I'm like, we can do all that.
That's awesome. So now here's the cool thing. Here's the big twist that people don't know about you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I know where this is going.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
Police Officer Caputo.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just recently retired from there.
Yes.
The exact same time you're on the air, you're a police officer.
Yeah. For 23 years, I was a reserve officer with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, known by shorthand as FWC.
Yeah.
So game wardens, you could call us. When I first started and went to the police academy, it was called the Florida Marine Patrol, which you being a native, you remember those guys.
Sure.
So I started working for them, and then we merged with another agency, the Game and Fish Commission. We became the Fish and Wildlife Commission. So I did that for 23 years, and I got to tell you, up until the last couple of years, I loved every single minute of it. It was like an application for me, something I always wanted to do, and working in television and doing what I do, it's kind of like the golden handcuffs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Where even if I didn't like it, the money's good, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, know. But with that, it was just something that I loved doing. It was fun. I mean, I got to ride on boats.
Boat all the time, right?
Yeah, we were on boats. We were on ATVs in the woods. We were driving pickup trucks around, and it was just fun. It was just a really, really good time.
Now, were you ever on one of those snake patrols that they have where they're getting the big?
That's a new thing. We didn't do that.
The big snakes, the pythons,
the pythons. Yeah, we didn't do the python patrol back then. Most of the calls we got were like alligator calls or.
Were you wrestling alligators?
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
You did that yourself?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No.
I had to call you on that one a little bit.
No. But I mean, like you'd have two people. You got to have somebody in front of it and somebody behind it. I mean, it's if it's a
so you were smart enough because you were on the air and you couldn't mess up the money maker.
I wasn't going to die for that. No,
you were the decoy and you let your buddy jump in on top of it, right?
Look over here. But those calls, if the alligator was a certain size, we would just look at him and go like, call the trapper, because we're not touching that big boy. I saw one time. We got a call from FHP, Florida Highway Patrol, and they called us out to 275, right about where 4th Street is, right? And they were like, we got a gator out here in the median. We need you guys to come out and grab him. And we're like, okay. So we go out there, and this gator was a beast. I mean, like we could have tied him to the pickup truck and we wouldn't have been able to drag him out of there. He was a big boy, probably 10 foot, 9 foot. He was massive and just girthy. And so
that's by Sawgrass Lake, isn't it? For local people.
In that area. And so we got some ropes on him, and we thought, okay, maybe we got a shot with this guy. And we started pulling on him, and he whipped his tail around, hit the guardrail, and dented the guardrail. Now, the guardrail's meant to stop like a 7,000-pound pickup truck or even a Mack truck. He dented the guardrail. And that's at the point we looked at each other and went, we're going to call the trapper.
You know what? I don't think people realize, first of all, if they're out of the state, I mean, they're really afraid of these things.
Right.
And you don't really need to be. I mean, as long as
you got to have a healthy respect.
As long as you stay away from them. But I mean, I think people think they're going to chase them down the street or something. Like a movie. Now, the one thing people should know as the public announcement is you do not feed the alligators.
No.
All right.
Or any wildlife.
Because as soon as you feed the alligators, they got to come take them. They got to go.
They get, because they lose their fear of humans.
That's right.
So they instead of going away from us, they come towards you, and that's what causes the problem. So because a lot of times the people that are down by the water aren't paying attention to what's under the water.
Exactly.
That becomes a problem. And here's a weird fun fact, that alligators love birthday cake. And I know this because we used to have to go out there and try to lure the alligators. And what we would do is we would go out there. If it was in the middle of a lake, like there was one right off of Indian Rocks Road, I want to say is what it was. I think so. Anyway, so we went into this apartment complex and there was this alligator, massive alligator in the lake. And once they get scared, they go underwater and they won't come back up, and they can hold their breath forever, longer than we're going to stand there and wait. So my partner was like, go to Publix and go buy a birthday cake. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. So I get this birthday cake and I bring it back. And you should have seen the looks I was getting from people standing in line in uniform with a birthday cake. They were looking at me like, what are you doing? So I get back there and he just takes a big hunk with his hand, just grabs a big hunk of birthday cake, smashes it on the end of a hook, baits it up and throws it in the lake. And that gator came out of nowhere and he was dragging this in, and the gator was just doing this, the chomp.
Doing this, the chomp.
Yeah, okay. The gator chomp, trying to get the birthday cake.
Now, how did the officer know it was the gator's birthday?
Maybe they were friends. I don't know. They were friends on Facebook. It notified them.
That's funny.
Yeah.
My here's one of the little hidden secrets. Everyone always goes to Disney World. All the things.
Yeah.
Over in Orlando, they have a place called Gatorland Zoo.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually have zip lining.
Yeah.
You go over thousands of gators.
It's
a gator farm. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Right? So we went over there my daughter's 21st birthday.
Right.
My daughter's a pretty girl. And, the guys, it's your birthday. So they let her wrestle one of the gators.
Oh, God.
And it wasn't a big gator. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 5 feet. And it was a little docile. It wasn't,
that's a decent
She grabbed that thing's tail, man. And I'm telling you what, it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the strength of those things.
It's just one big muscle.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's one big muscle. Smaller ones, you can jump on their back and you can, disable them by pushing their head down. You tape up their mouth, and there's a whole way you do it. But the big ones, man, we didn't mess with. But I mean, that was fun. But the stuff I really liked was on the boat. I liked working nights out on the water was fun. I loved during the daytime. You're just walking around basically sightseeing all day.
Yeah.
Unless you see somebody, do
what
something
were you
wrong.
Sightseeing? I'm just wondering.
Other people.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
You must.
I mean, when you're out on the water down here, though, it is beautiful. I mean, it's just gorgeous. You know what I mean? No matter what you're looking at.
So it's a horrible place to live, though. Just for people living in other states.
Don't come here.
Don't come here. Yeah.
You don't want to live here. And BUIs. We did a lot of BUIs, boarding under the influence arrests.
Gosh, I can only imagine. Man. It's it's freaking ridiculous. You go out there in the weekends and it's just crazy.
And it's so much worse now than it was just a few years ago. But one of the things I love doing was working Gasparilla every year. And if people don't know, it's the big pirate festival that happens.
It's like one of the biggest festivals in the country now. I think behind Mardi Gras. I think it's the number 2.
Oh yeah, no, it's off the chain.
Gasparilla, yeah.
It's off the chain. And so we would work that, and those were long days. Like you'd get out there at 7 a.m. and you wouldn't come home till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, easily.
Just because people would try to outwait us. Like they would sit on their boats in the dark and think that we didn't know they were there. And then they would come, blasting out of there, and we'd be running without our lights on, and we'd turn them on, and it was like,
Well, it used to be a thing, and it's changed a little bit, but
what's that?
There at one point there was like no age limit to even be able to be on a boat. You'd see these 12-year-old kids on these motorboats driving around.
Yeah, now you have to have a boating license.
Yeah,
and you have to go online and complete the course. And I used to remember this like the back of my hand. I think it was 1987. If you're born after that date, you had to go get them. So people still have to do it.
Yeah, and they should. And there should be.
Oh my God!
There should be a boating class that everyone has to take. Like I had to do that for my motorcycle endorsement.
Yes.
It's a 3-day deal.
I 100%
and I
agree.
complained about it every second. But after I took it, I was like, I'm glad I took that class.
I feel like boats, I always tell people like, there's 100 ways to die on a boat.
Yep.
Honestly, you don't think about this, but you're not wearing seatbelts. You're not.
Or to kill somebody else on a boat.
Or to kill somebody else on a boat. And I've seen people.
Or in a jet ski.
Some of the accidents I've seen, without getting into too much detail, I've seen people hit by propellers. I've seen, people that have been like keel-hauled, for better lack of an explanation, where they got pulled all the way under the boat. I mean, just all launched off the front of the boat when it hit a piling, and they hit the piling with their head and died. I mean, just, that's the downside of the law enforcement thing, is you do see a lot of.
I couldn't deal with
now,
that.
the interesting part of it, though, is that, for me, for a kid who grew up in the suburbs, and went to country clubs as a kid, for me to do that, it was just a whole different, it was eye-opening for me.
So part of me is tempted to ask about some of these things. They could be some of these BUIs, the boating under the influence. I'm sure you came across it was like a Cops episode. But I do have to ask because I'm curious. So you're, listen, people recognize you, right?
Right.
Home Shopping Network, been on for a long time.
Yep.
And then you come over and you're asking someone for their license. There must have been some stories where people are like, aren't you the dude on Home Shopping Network? Did they think you were doing like, candid camera on them? Or?
It happened a couple of times, but not often, because you got to think about it. When I'm out there, I'm wearing my baseball cap that had the badge on it, and I've got sunglasses on. You know what I mean? So they didn't really know.
It'd be a heck of a story for people, though, man. I was arrested by the dude on Home Shopping Network, right?
There's actually a video on YouTube right now, and the guy's name, what's his name? There's a guy, he's a rich guy that lives in Clearwater, and he does all these, Ben Mahler, I think is his name. Okay. And I'm at the boat ramp one day waiting for my partner to come pick me up, because I would drive to the boat ramp and he would come pick me up, depending on where we were going, what was going on, what the detail was. So I drove one of the trucks over there, I parked it, and I'm just walking around the boat ramp, checking people, checking their boat safety and everything like that. And this guy pulls up with you see them now, but it was like the first one. It looks like a car, but it's a jet boat. Have you ever seen these? And you can drive it into the water.
Yeah.
So the dude starts driving down there, and I'm watching him, and they're shooting.
Freaking out?
No, because they're shooting for YouTube. So they were just loving the fact, and they were like, can we get you on camera? I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And there's a video on there of me talking to this guy, and I'm standing at the side of the car, and he goes, "Do you see any problems with this thing?" And I go, "The only problem I'm seeing is I don't know whether to ask you for a driver's license or a captain's license."
That's fun.
I guess we're on land, so driver's license. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then not 5 minutes later, he leaves, and I see my partner coming, and he pulls out of there, tearing, butt, right?
Yeah.
As he goes out of there, and my partner lights him up. You see the blue lights on the boat go on. He pulls the guy over, and I'm like, oh my God. And I was just talking to this guy, and they come back to the dock, and he goes, "I was just talking to him." And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, I didn't tell you to pull out of here. You didn't see it was a no wake zone. That was me. So anyway, he didn't get a ticket. We wrote him. He got a warning, but it was just funny that I was like, what are the odds on this?
It's like the umpires, right?
Yeah.
One says safe and the other one says you're out. Yeah, that's
exactly.
awkward.
So he got a warning, but it was funny because like that made it to the YouTube video.
Yeah.
And that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
Up. Yeah. So we can go here or not go there if you want. It's up to you. But you said you loved it except for the past couple of years that you were in there. So you want to talk about that or bypass it? Because I got some strong feelings on the respect for the police officers.
That was a big part. That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
That was a big part because it got to the point now. So we had to start wearing cameras, which was fine, but it was very different to do that because when you first start wearing it, you're very conscious that it's there. But then it occurred to me, I'm like, oh, we're not doing anything that's weird anyway. Yeah. So I'd rather have the record of it if somebody says something. But what went along with that is everybody wanted to record us. So every time we would just even stop and talk to somebody, cameras were coming out all over the place. And to the point where it was getting dangerous. You know what I mean? For us. But then the respect factor, like I would say to somebody, could I see your license? And they'd be like, I don't have to show you my license. And I'm like, you're driving. You kind of have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'd have to have this whole, confrontation. I'm like, dude, a year ago, you would have just handed it to me.
Sure.
And now you don't want
And you're being respectful. You're
Absolutely.
not like, it's just
the
media narrative and everything about I've got family members that are police officers. And stuff. And look, listen, I came across one that was a complete ass.
Oh,
he wasn't there. And I'm sure they're out there, but
I have.
I mean, just
They're
the
out there.
villainization, I guess, is the problem that I've had.
And we were super nice. That was the thing. Like, if you're going to get like stopped by anybody, hope that it's a game warden, hope that it's the Fish and Wildlife, because they are the nicest people.
Yeah,
honestly, they really are all good guys. I still got great friends that are doing it or have moved on to other things. And, it's just, it's one of those things, you give respect, you get respect. You know what I mean? So I was always very polite with everybody. I never tried to embarrass anybody. I always made sure if they were with their family, we would pull them aside to talk to them. I didn't want to, I didn't want their kids to feel bad. So like if there were two of us, one of us would talk to the kids while the other one was dealing with dad, unless there was just a ton of people on the boat.
Sure, yeah.
But it was just, in my opinion, because I was getting older, and it was just the kind of thing where I was like, you know what, I've been doing this a long time and I'm not loving it anymore. So if you don't like it, don't do it.
And we don't get political on this show, but all of a sudden they're finding out, well, hey, nobody wants to be a police officer and there's shortages.
Well, I mean, the pay could have a big thing to do with that too, though.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
There were years ago where I actually went up and talked to one of the unions up in New York City.
Yeah.
And they had their own pension plan.
Oh yeah.
And it was, and I was asking them about, the pay. And this is, okay, 15, 20 years ago. It was a long time ago, but even with inflation. And I said, well, how much do these guys make coming in? He said, a police officer in New York City he said they just raised it significantly from $29,000 to $35,000.
Yeah. Nope. I'm not surprised.
It's like it's $15 just to get onto the island every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I said, how do these guys make it? He said, they don't. They sit there, they have to live with their parents. And he said, they don't make anything. He said, that's why there's a lot of corruption up there.
Yeah.
Because this is what these guys were telling me. It's because they're not making
or they work what they call B jobs, where they have like a second job where they're not a cop, or like with our guys, they did a lot of off-duty work.
Yeah.
So you would see them at construction sites and movie theaters and just all these places where they would like work as security guards, basically, law enforcement security.
Yeah.
And they made more money doing that.
Yeah. That's a shame.
They almost kept the job just to do that.
Yeah. So here's what's another cool thing I think about you. Right. So you're the home shopping guy.
Right.
You did the police officer, the game warden thing.
Yep.
That ran its course.
Yep.
And so then, of course, instead of sitting at home, you had to find another little hobby or endeavor that you got involved in.
Which one is that?
Like, there's so many, like, you can't figure it out.
No.
You became a brewer.
Oh, well, no. Technically, I'm not a brewer.
Okay.
What I am is, so what I did was I got bored last summer. I got bored. And so I enrolled.
You're like me. You didn't have, you only had 50 things to do with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
But, for me, it's sometimes the things that I'm passionate about. Like I gotta have something that I'm passionate about. And so for me, I love craft beer. I love going to breweries. I love the ambiance. I love everything about it. I think the whole experience is great. So what I did was I went through Cornell University and I took an online course, lasted the entire summer. I mean, this was no joke. This wasn't a gut. This was like legit. And we did all kinds of like labs for the class that we had to do at home. I had to buy all kinds of different, yeasts and different hops and do all these comparisons and marketing plans. And so what it was a course called Beer Essentials. And I got a certificate in Beer Essentials, which basically qualifies me to run a brewery or like do for a country club or for like a restaurant or someplace like that, plan their beer menu and all that. So how to buy, Jeff, and I learned the brewing process. I just didn't do it.
So I've got this. See, so it all fits in. Here's my suggestion for you, right?
Yes.
So you've got the beer you can make.
Mm-hmm.
You test market it on the water with all of the drunk guys,
and then arrest them,
right? No, you don't know. You don't. Well, I mean, right?
We're going to bring this full circle.
But you get your focus group that you've got, and then you sell it on Home Shopping Network.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
I like it. They sell wine.
Do they? Well, they could sell beer.
Chef Curtis Stone
What would he call your beer? Would it be Caputo Brew or
no Lou's Brews? Lou's
Brews. There you go.
Lou's Brews. Kelly and I
about it, man.
Kelly and I talked about years ago about opening up a tap house.
Kelly's your wife. Yeah.
Kelly, my wife, about opening up a tap house in Gainesville, Ocala, somewhere like that, where you would be like an amalgamator of craft beers, because there's a lot of people don't realize this. There's a lot of breweries up in that part of Florida, especially Gainesville. And just have a place where it's far enough away from them where people probably wouldn't make the drive, but we'd bring the beer in and we'd have all the local brews, right? So I was going to call it Caps Taps. I like the name.
Yeah,
again, I like alliteration.
Sure.
So Caps Taps, we're still kicking it around. It might be something I'll do one day when I retire.
I think that's cool, man. Yeah, when you retire, like you're going to retire.
I mean,
I'm not going to retire. I mean, you're going to stop doing like your main deal, but you're not the kind of guy that's going to sit around and do anything.
I'm going to have to do something.
Yeah,
I'll get bored. I get bored real easy.
Yeah, you and me both. That's why we vibe, man.
Yeah.
Man, you've done just so much, man. It's so cool. I like the diversity of stuff, but for our audience, in this podcast, we try to give them some stuff that they can apply to their own lives and do stuff. So it seems like you've got to live a lot of dreams here.
I think what that comes from is me just picking a direction and going. You know what I'm saying? Like I hate to say it, but like without even thinking about it. You know
what? That's a very good lesson. So we got this thing called paralysis by analysis that most people are involved in. Mm-hmm. So you just sort of say, hey, I want to go do that. Just go figure it out.
And just go do it. And that's how I got into television was real quick. I was an English major in college. And the way I got into broadcasting was we had a college radio station and I started, working there and I loved it. I loved it. I had such a good time. So when I got out of college, I was like, I was thinking about going to law school. My dad was a lawyer. He said, don't go to law school. Do not go to law school.
By the way, that's pretty good advice. I've heard that from a lot of people.
Great. It was great advice. Because he knew me and he's like, I know you. He goes, you're going to be crazy bored. Don't do it. So, and he was right. So I didn't do that. But I got a job at a radio station and I really wanted to get into television, but I had no experience, nothing, and it was different back then to get in. It was really hard. So I wound up getting volunteering at a public access station. And I worked there for 6 months until one day the GM came up to me and he was like, do you work here? And I said, no, I volunteer. He goes, but you're here every day for 8 hours. I go, yeah. He goes, why? And I go, because I want to learn the business. And he just walked away. And then the next day, my manager came up to me, the guy that I was reporting to, and he says, we're going to give you a job. And they gave me like a real seriously entry level, but I learned everything from the bottom, how to wrap cables, how to light, how to edit, how to direct, how to do everything.
So don't think a lot and be humble.
Yeah.
Not afraid to work.
No, but don't be afraid to work. And there were things that it's worth working for. You know what I mean? In my opinion, that was one of them. You know what I mean?
You were playing the long game too. That's another thing.
I was. It's funny how that changes as you get older, but yeah.
No, and what I mean by that is sometimes I see, people who are like, oh, I'm not doing this. It's like, you're learning something that's going to help you down the road.
Absolutely.
Right? You're sort of paying your dues here so that you can do these other things, right?
Right.
That's super cool. I don't know what's making me think about this. I don't want to take us off, but it may tie into some of this stuff. So I just heard this story. My cousin's a producer. We're going to have him on here sometime.
You should.
He's a music producer.
That's even cooler.
He did stuff for Hootie and the Blowfish. And he was telling me about this drummer up in Virginia. The kid's in high school.
Right.
And the kid was so good that there's some drum corps up there that's a college up there. And I couldn't name it for you, but I guess it's like the premier drum corps.
Right.
And this kid just goes over there and starts playing drums with, there's like hundreds of people in a college band.
Yeah.
And next thing they gave him, they thought he was part of the team. And they not only gave him a uniform and he was marching at all the games, he ended up, they gave him a dorm. The kid's in high school.
That's awesome.
So for like 6 months, he's playing with this college.
That's awesome.
It's college team.
Wow.
And finally somebody goes, dude, you didn't go to school here?
Yeah. Are you a student?
He's like, no. It's like, I don't go to school here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so obviously he couldn't be on the team anymore.
Right.
It was just that whole idea of, hey, man, this is what I like. This is what I'm good at.
This is what I'm going to do.
Let's go for it, man. Sometimes you got to take some chances and get out of your comfort zone.
You got to.
Right?
Yeah, you got to.
Now the guy's this big time drummer, So
yeah.
So you had to get out of your comfort zone too?
I had to get out of my comfort zone. Well, and like the whole thing it's funny because I'm not going to say I had like stage fright or I had this fear of being like, now I can go on camera and I don't, it doesn't bother me at all because I've been doing it for almost, 50 years. It's like been a long time.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing theater. One of my friends in high school talked me into it, and
You were a
the way
theater guy.
well, I wasn't a theater guy because I played football and I swam and I ran track. I did all this other stuff. I became a theater guy because my friend said to me, he goes, "We have the best parties."
I knew there was something coming about the girls or something.
Well, I should mention that. I went to an all-male high school, a Catholic high school.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All-male Catholic high school.
Sign me up for theater.
Yeah. Because they had to bring in women to play the women's parts. So, and so that got me into it. But then that's what got me thinking, like, I kind of liked it. I was like going, I like this.
I could see that being sort of cool.
It was cool.
Actually.
It was cool.
We had Tanya on here, Christensen.
Yeah.
You know her
I love
too.
Tanya.
Oh my gosh.
She's the best.
Man.
Yeah.
She's really super cool. So,
Yeah.
So you got into theater. I had no idea about that.
For a little while, but I learned, it didn't take me long to learn in college that I was a better theater director than I was an actor. I'm not a good actor at all, but I'm good at being me. And that's how I got into the hosting thing.
Yeah.
That's
super cool.
I can be me.
Good. So those are great takeaways for people.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, we've had you here for a while.
Loved it, man. Loved it.
We'll get you back over here.
Okay.
Again. And
that was fun.
I need you to hook me up with some of these guests from the Home Shopping.
I'm going to tell you the Phyllis Diller story when we get off the air.
My gosh, I can't wait. We should almost put that on. You know what? I got to tell you, and people will be disappointed, but like the conversation we have off the air, especially Tim and I.
Oh, yeah.
Tim's not able to be on this episode, but it's pretty dang funny, man. It's just, I don't know that it's appropriate, but all the time our good looking producer, Isaac, he's got the nice beard.
The most majestic beard I've ever
told
seen.
You he met ZZ Top and they asked him for his autograph, right?
I believe it too.
But Isaac's in tears listening to us afterwards. Well, thanks for being on.
All right, buddy.
And
thanks for
we'll see you on Home Shopping Network.
Home Shopping Network.
So everybody look at Home Shopping Network, and if they see Lou, then go buy something.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about you arresting them anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay.
I'm part of the problem now.
All right, brother. See you.
Yep. See you.
We hope you enjoyed the show today and learned something new. Remember, knowledge without action is meaningless. So make sure to be intentional about life and live it to the fullest. And most importantly, get out of your comfort zone. And always, always remember to dream big, live with purpose, and attack the day.
It's time for the joke of the day.
All right, everyone, this is Jim, and here's the joke of the day. Now, listen, Tim normally does this and does a much better job, but he's not here today, so you're stuck with me. And unfortunately, I don't know a lot of clean jokes, shall we say. So here's the closest one that I can think of off the top of my head. What kind of bee likes milk? A booby. All right, as stupid as that one is, it always gives me a chuckle. And I know for some friends of mine, they've just gone into tears over that one. So hope that put a smile on your face, and feel free to share that. I didn't come up with it. I don't know who did. But anyways, makes me laugh. See you later.